we're coming to you live from high atop Darkblade's Fortress of Solitude. It's the Pilot Review Show. Tonight's hosts are Darkblade, Timberwolf, and finally making his PRS debut, Crayo. Coming up is 1 hour of exciting information, including the Star Trek Online article in the Discovery Companion magazine. Also be sure to stay tuned and learn the latest budget build, guaranteed to be competitive and not break the bank. That and much more coming up after this.
And greetings, folks. You just heard the introduction from our newest show host here on PRS. But indeed, as he says, we've got some good bits of information to get through for you guys this evening, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. And the first thing we have up this week is actually the Discovery magazine that they're launching, which is going to be featuring Stowe. One of the big things we're going to be getting with this magazine is a code for some stuff in STO. This is going to get you the Discovery uniform, 3 Phoenix prize packs, a large XP boost, and the Tier 1 Constitution. So, yeah, some pretty fun stuff with the magazine here. Talks about the different subscription models you can get, as well as some links to that. What about you guys? Any comments, thoughts on this one?
It's a nice little side promotion. I mean, I think the Discovery uniforms only came out during a promo, was it 3 or 4 days? Haven't been available since. That's rather nice to get, considering a lot of people do like to have the options on ground for different uniforms. I'm sorry, Crayo, you're new. I interrupted you. You please go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know that I'm not the biggest Discovery fan, but anything that brings in more players and consequently more money to the development means the game can only get better.
It's a good way of looking at it, I suppose. Yeah, like we say, this is first iteration of the magazine, everything they've got going. You can check out the different links. We'll have all this in the description for you guys, so you can check it out and see if maybe you guys are interested. And if nothing else, this will get you a nice little Tier 1 Constitution class, which will get you the level-less phasers, and could be something good if you're somebody that likes to create a lot of alts. But anyways, folks, moving along, we actually have a bit of information regarding or the next article, our Tier 6 reps. Now, we did touch base on this in our special report a little bit, but I know me and Timber kind of gave some thoughts on this previously, but I'm just curious about you, Crayo. What's some of your thoughts on this Tier 6 rep?
Well, I don't know. I see that it could be interesting. It's definitely sort of stagnated at Tier 5. It's not expensive to get to Tier 6, so, you know, I mean, it's not, overall, it's not bad for the players at all, and it does come with some perks that I think are pretty nice. Everybody getting a token, account-wide sponsorship token when they hit Tier 5 is a pretty nice perk. I mean, it's not like it was expensive to get otherwise, but still, that's going to be, you know, that's going to be pretty nice for a lot of people, especially those with more than one character. I mean, we know a few people who have a lot of characters. I have 8 myself, and that's, you know, it's just one less thing I have to worry about, and I can just get right back into the game.
Indeed.
And
any
Blade,
any other additional thoughts?
I wanted to touch on one thing that I overheard on the cast when they actually were talking about it briefly.
Okay.
Originally, from what they were describing, it looked like we were going to have a lot, and I mean a lot of options, when it came down to one of our big things we were talking about, which was you could switch the energy type of the reputation weapons. And we were looking at, you know, potentially you could have the Terran, like for example, the Terran Task Force beam could be all 6 energy types. However, I did overhear on there, for anybody that hasn't watched the podcast, I know Cryptic still has it up for you guys. They're not doing all 6 energy types for all the reputation weapons. What they're going to end up doing is 2 types. So probably whatever type it is currently, and then 1 additional. So for Terran Task Force, and I'm just going off of a previous example of a twin energy type reputation. The last twin energy type was Counter Command, and it was Disruptor Phaser. So the possibility is Terran Task Force could have its standard Disruptor type, and then have a phaser type, and that's it. And they might just do pairings based on that. Now, I'm not sure. They haven't given more information, but it's not... It's more than what we have currently. It's just not as versatile as we once thought when it comes to the rep weapons. So it's going to be a wait and see on that one.
If I may chime in, I would just say that if they only had the primary types, for example, Phaser, Disruptor, Plasma, and a Polaron, I mean, I would be happy with that, because that means I can still get that canonical look in my build while having, you know, really good custom gear.
Yeah. But honestly, my thought for it, Crayo, was they could code it the way they've done a lot of different things now in the past year, where it's just... For example, I'll use the Advanced Temporal Defense Beam. It can, instead of it be a Chronoton beam, it could just be an Advanced Defense Beam Array, and when you finish the project, you end up with a choice box. And then you just pick whichever one you want out of the choice box. That way it's, you know, you're not having 6 different projects, it's one project and you select what you want at the end. That way everybody can have what they would want for their build and enhance it. But that's just me.
It's not a bad idea.
Something I'd... Oh, not at all. But something I'd actually thought about, and I don't know if this is how they're going to do it, but you actually brought up a good point I did want to touch base on before we moved ahead, is you were talking about how the Disruptor could be paired with a Phaser, as just one example. If you actually think about it, and I don't know if this is what they're going to do or not, but if you actually think about it, Phaser and Disruptor, if they pair those two together, that's what makes up the resistance sets on a Diburnium hull armor.
True.
So if you look at the, like say you've got, of course we've got the standard Neutroniums, which is all-encompassing. You've got a blade of hull armor, and then its counterpoint, which is a, I think it's a Tetraburnium. And that's the other 4 energy types. Well, even further, if you wanted to sub-spec, you could get something like an Electro-Ceramic, which is, I believe, Plasma, and I think Tetrion is the other one on that. So you could, if they follow that kind of armor pattern, you could see something such as perhaps a Romulan Tetrion weapon. I don't know if that's how they're going to do it, but that's just one example of how they could.
Yeah, because if I remember those pairings correctly, I think it is Plasma Tetrion, and then it's Polaron Anti-Proton. So anything that's anti-proton could also be Polaron, which would open up a lot of Polaron options from these, like the Advanced Radiant Anti-Proton Beam, or your Advanced Temporal Defense Beam. And at the same time, the Polaron weapons could be anti-proton. If they're following that, like you say, it still does give a lot of options.
Yep. And again, folks, like I say, that's just me speculating. I don't know that that's what they're going to do. We won't know more until they actually open it up on Tribble for us to test.
Which the theory is this coming week. That's my theory. That's what I've got down on paper, to be perfectly honest. For the simple fact, they released 3 different things last week, 2 of which were testing. Currently on Tribble, the Reputation is the only thing that is not being tested. I'm figuring they're giving us the weekend to try out the first 2, and next week sometime, probably mid-late week, we'll get Reputations.
It's a possibility. But anyways, folks, like I say, we kind of dove into a lot of this in greater detail during our special report. If you want to check that out in light of this new information that we now have, we'll be sure to link that in the description for you guys. But moving along, we have our PC patch notes for the 6th. I did? Which one did I miss?
Breach.
Oh yes, the Breach. Apparently I forgot to pull that one up. But, yeah.
So, Crayo, I'm going to ask you on this one. Are you slightly disappointed because it's the same Breach constantly? I think this is the 2nd time we've had the Breach this year. Or are you it's just one of those daily things that you end up doing?
Well, because of the rewards, it just is a daily thing I end up doing. I will say this, that these types of events, when you have 8 characters that you want to run through it, they pretty much preclude you doing anything else in the game for the duration of the event, at least for me. That may not be that way with other people, but that's kind of how I feel. It becomes kind of a second job, and when I'm done doing it, I go play a different game, you know?
Yeah, and I can see that, especially with the time constraints with this one, because if you have a good run, you're still looking at 7 to 8 minutes to get this particular event done. And that's on a good run. And that's per character. So you're looking at 8 times 8 for you. That's a little over an hour just to do one daily per toon. Not counting switching, it'd probably end up being like 70, 75 minutes switching tunes, getting in the queue, all that kind of thing.
Right. It is very time consuming, and not every run is an optimal run. And so it ends up just being your best time that you can make with it. And it does seem like the big holdup is the sub power core. It seems like some folks just kind of struggle with destroying that in a quick fashion, and that seems to be always the choke point for me. I always get to the inside of the ship really quick, but then there's always kind of a choke point there in that room with the sub power core.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I stated this in my video that I released earlier this week, was I just wish that every so often they would substitute in a different part of the ship to make it a little different. I mean, the first half can always be the trench run. Okay, I get it. But maybe instead of the sub-power core next time, we have the old hangar bay like we used to.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Where instead of fighting the sub-power core to get to the main core, you have to fight the Voth Dreadnought ship again. Or I think there was one phase where you had to fight off several hangar bays, throwing out the Palisades and other ships, where you had to fight off all the hangar bays. Just something to spice it up, because it hasn't changed. I mean, if it was a one-and-done kind of thing like Crystalline Catastrophe, and it was short and sweet, it doesn't really matter if they change it up a bit or if it's the same, because you're in and out, even with the new changes to Crystalline, within 2 minutes. Here it's so time-consuming, I'd like to just see if it's going to be 8 minutes. Instead of the sub-power core, let's change out something different. To me, it's just kind of blasé.
Right. Well, and you do, I mean, I appreciate that it's shorter, because it used to be an hour per character, it seemed like, to get through it. I do appreciate that it's much shorter, but yes, some variety would very much be nice. To be able to do something different, to go left or to go right at the end of the trench run, or even to skip the trench run. I mean, it's cool, and I get that, like you said, but, just to have different missions on it. Maybe not even destroy it every single time, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, Chris, I don't know if you've messed with it, but what do you think of the combat pet? Because from my numbers on it, from people that have reported, you got a 10 to 20 second uptime with a 4-minute cooldown.
This is the thing. I've heard good about it and I've heard bad about it, so it's one of those things. Like I say, I've not entirely got mine yet, but from everything that I'm seeing, from what I've played with people that do have it, it's one of those things, if you play your cards right, like so many other things in this game, it's one of those things that if you play your cards right, it can be useful. But, again, you're talking a 20-second uptime with a 4-minute cooldown. That's a huge downtime compared to an uptime. So you're looking at, 5 seconds a minute, roughly?
More or less, yeah.
So that's not really that great of an uptime for as long of a cooldown as it had. Now, for me personally, I would like to see that cooldown at maybe 2 minutes.
That would be pretty standard.
Which would put it in line with a lot of the other pets, like the Dilithium Hortus and some of those pets. But if it's done right, this can be a very big game changer on the ground, from what I'm seeing so far. But again, it comes down to timing. If you mistime it, you've wasted it.
I see them balancing this at some point in the future. I see them making a change to it.
Yep. I can agree with that. Now, one thing I do want to get your guys' thoughts on, because it is something different they have done, is what do you guys think about the C-Store purchase they've added to this event, where you can essentially purchase 10 of the tokens?
I love it.
I have a feeling some people are going to love it. I don't know how I feel about it. But it's a revenue thing. I get it. So, I see it being controversial. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that it's not.
I think it's been well received.
Fair enough.
Only because of how long it takes to actually do this event. So I can see people going, you know what, I am okay with as long as this takes, taking 10 days away from it so I don't have to
right, but
worry
I
about
do
it as
worry that
much.
it is a slippery slope. I mean, let's face it, they've got the best free-to-play model out of any free-to-play game on the market. Let's not make any mistakes here and make it too pay to win. I mean, at the moment, it's not particularly pay to win at all. If they keep it to just events, I could see that being a thing. But if all of a sudden they start adding other stuff, I'd be a little worried.
True.
I guess I can agree with that assessment. But, like we say, we'll have this in the notes for you guys. You can check out the article. And for those of you that do have the pet out there, let us know. What do you think about it? Is it a good pet? Are you getting good mileage out of it? Let us know what you think. But now, officially, thanks to my slacking, we have the patch notes officially now. But, you say, not really a lot to it. We have a crafting weekend, which is actually this weekend, currently ongoing. We'll be going to the 10th, which is technically tomorrow. Then we have our shuttle weekend, which is going to be going from the 20th to the 24th. So, lots of fun with your shuttles, I guess. Then, Cardassian Bridge Officers of uncommon, rare, and very rare qualities available at the Duty Officer Recruitment. Resolved an issue where co-opt energy weapons could cause excessive amounts of healing in some cases. The slipstream turn rate boost from the Obelisk, Rift Warp Core, and Polaric Modulator been increased to 100% from 20%. And then they gave resolved an issue that prevented some 23rd century Tellarite, Gorn, Klingon, and Andorian costume options from being available to players that have completed the 23rd century arc on any character. Second color choice now works for Cardassian-type pants for male and female. Resolved clipping issue for Jem'Hadar captains wearing the Null Enos helmet. Klingon faction Jem'Hadar captains can now wear the Klingon Honor Guard helmet if unlocked. So, let's talk about the big elephant in the room, because I know me and Timber are big technical guys in some instances. Co-opt energy weapons. Thoughts on that, sir?
If it's just like anything else. If it's causing too much damage output to where it's broken as hell, it needs to be fixed. Same with the healing. If it's making someone where they're literally unkillable even in elite content, I mean, it's got to have balance. I mean, I know people are going to be upset that it's being nerfed because it was probably, from what we understand, I'm not sure, one of our people, I think they were using it, they were seeing 4 million a second on healing. So 4 million healing per second.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't be killed by anything in this game, I think, short of like a feedback pulse on the Queen in HSE. Might do that much if it bounces up enough. So anything short of that is probably not going to kill you if you're doing that much healing per second. And that ability lasts for, what, 20 seconds? So, yeah.
I think so.
I mean, that's better than an immunity.
But it does have a 2-minute cooldown.
Yeah.
It doesn't occupy a device or console slot, so there's that. But, yeah, I'll be honest, I have a science tune that has that. I have not really, with Breach going on, I've not really had an opportunity to poke around with it much. But to my, I mean, what little that I have used it hasn't seemed totally OP. But then, like I said, I haven't gone and like parsed an ISA or anything.
Yeah.
I think the highest amount of healing, and this is, since it's been fixed, we can talk about this now, is, I think the highest amount of healing that I know of in a run was over 1 billion points of healing off of just this one power.
And to me, that seems a little
pretty
excessive.
big deal. Yeah. When you consider that the average ship, and let's assume even a Dreadnought cruiser at this point, is about, I think the universe natively can get up to about 120k hull.
130?
That's somewhere around in there without any buffs going, like from strategist or something like that. So you figure 120k, and then you're healing for 1 billion a run. That's a huge freaking deal. To slightly paraphrase Joe Biden there, but yeah, that's a huge
for that
freaking
much,
deal.
It ends up only being like an immunity to damage, because whatever they do to you, you're healing it instantly.
Yep. But that aside and everything, any other stuff stand out to you guys? Anything in particular?
Well, I can't say there's anything in particular.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's something healing-wise I want fixed in the game currently, but it's not on this list.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'd say the other big thing that I see major, anyway, is the Cardassian buffs. So if you're somebody looking to get a Cardassian bridge crew, now's your chance to do it. But anyways, moving right along, this comes one of the big things that people are looking to test. I know we've got some thoughts on this, is the streamlining of the mission journal. So
Another recently controversial move.
Go ahead. Yep. I'll preface it really quickly, and I know Timber's wanting to give some thoughts on it, but basically in a nutshell, they're wanting to try to streamline the mission journal for us. They're wanting to remove some of the, I guess, some of the side missions or side arcs that they're calling it. That way we can get to the more current stuff a lot faster. And they're updating some of the older missions in the process. Now, these missions, such as Wasteland, Spectres, Breen Invasion, they're not going away. They're not being removed from the game. It's just now we're not going to have them in the mission journals, although we can still play them. So, this is one of the big things that they are coming with. But, thoughts from you, Timber, since...
Okay, so I understand what they're trying to do here, and it makes sense. Because when you look at the journal currently, there's a shit ton to do. I'm sorry. Excuse my language. We're rated R at this point. It's just, there's a shit ton to do. There's a lot of missions. My issue with this, though, is the way it is. If you're coming in brand new to the game, from what they've seen and from what we've seen on the forums, as far as looking up everything, it's not that easy to find missions that you didn't even know were there. So if a brand new player comes in after this, and let's say everything old is new was one of the ones taken out of the journal, well, you'd have to go up to Drozana to see everything old is new. Which, you know, I'd rather know up front, to some degree, you know, at least have it popped up in maybe the available journal instead of not being in the standard. But just have it where it's a little bit more easier to find, instead of you stumble across it randomly.
You know, if I may interject, I think one of the better things they could do is give you a fork in the road. They could say, would you like to follow the classic story arc, or would you like to jump ahead to more modern stuff? And you have to choose at that point, in the same way you have to choose, is my Romulan a Federation or a Klingon? And once you've chosen, you can always go back with the missions, of course. You can always go back and run them again if you want, but you've had to make a conscious choice to go, do I want to run the old content or the new content or whatever?
And that would be good. My biggest thing, though, and I know this has been shown on the comments, I've actually seen it, some of these missions that they've done this treatment to are not replayable after the first playthrough. And this is something within the first, I think, 2 or 3 comments when they posted this on the forums, is you go to play one of these missions that they made that's not in the mission journal anymore. You have to go to that location to get it. You play through it once, they haven't been able to replay it. So if there's a mission, like, let's say, Bolivay Road, yes, it's the Curlin mission. It's annoying as shit, and it takes forever. But if you're wanting to get the Dominion shield, the Polaron, that Jem'Hadar shield, and then go back again and get Dominion Polarons, because those are re-rollable now, and actually really good Polaron beams, under this current system on Tribble, it's a one-time playthrough, and that's it. And that's, I've even run into that myself. I played it once on a new tune, and that's it. I got one weapon, and it doesn't pop up again. And I don't know if that's currently a bug, which I hope it is. But that would be irritating, because there's a lot of good replayable early content that you can get budget gear from. And if you can't replay it because it's been taken out of the mission journal, that kind of handicaps some people, because I mean, you can play through some of the missions a couple of times and you've got a good, basic budget build that's going to help you get to your next level of gear. You at least have something that's cohesive. So I'm hoping it's a bug, but I know what other people have seen on there as well as I.
Well, and honestly, with the upgrade system, some of that gear, sure, it starts out as a blue and a low mark or whatever. But you can upgrade it. You can make it a gold mark 15 if you wanted to, and run with some of that gear. So losing the ability to rerun it, yeah, that's sort of detrimental.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I thought I was the only one that saw that, but then I looked on the forums, and I'm not the only one. So I'm hoping that is a bug that they fix, because like I said, I understand what they're trying to do. It does need some refinement. And I do like Crayo's idea on having an option, just like you do with Romulans. You have an option of new content, starting off with it, then going back to old, or starting off from the beginning. That, to me, is a little bit better conscious choice, especially for people with multiple characters. You're starting a new one, you don't want to go through all the old ones, you just start with the brand new stuff.
Well, here's kind of to borrow a little bit from Crayo's idea. This is something that I had thought about that they could do, and will probably actually suggest this to them. Is, okay, obviously we want to make sure that these missions are replayable, because, like you said, there is a lot of good budget options in there. There's the Jem'Hadar set, obviously. There's Dominion Polarons. There's the Subspace Field Modulator, which is a very good device for survival. Also comes from those missions. You've got the Breen set. Even though the Breen set, it's not the greatest set ever, but it's still a nice set, especially if you're looking for a theme build. But have, like he's saying, a choice, so to speak, that you could do. Except you have, like, sort of a side journal of sorts, if that makes sense. Like, in your mission journal, you could say, place it under available, or wherever you wanted to do it. You'd have the main stuff in the main list on full display. Then they could have a little tab you could go to for something such as side stories. And then that would let you do your side missions, like maybe your Nimbus, if you're somebody that likes Nimbus. Maybe you want to go through Spectres to get the Subspace Field Modulator. Maybe you want to get the Breen set or the Dominion set or something like that. And it would be a lot easier to do. People would still know that, hey, these missions are there, but they would know they're not part of the main story, and that it's just side stuff that they don't have to do, but they can if they want to. Because the thing that I worry about is that if they take these out, if they take them out of the main journal and you have to actually fly to where it would start, is a lot of people, especially newer players, aren't going to know that these missions are there. They're not going to know to look for them. And they're going to miss out on a lot of good content as a result.
One of the biggest, fears with that is suddenly the metrics say, hey, nobody's playing these old missions anymore, we can just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that would be a shame, because there is some really good stuff in there. Now, not all the missions I like. I don't really particularly care for Nimbus, but I wouldn't want to see people that do like it have the content taken away because
and especially
of something
with
that.
Nimbus, with everything old is new. I mean, these are essentially TOS, either TOS areas or TOS themed missions. We have a lot of folks who really enjoy the original series. I recently have been rewatching it and have sort of regained my appreciation for it, and there's no reason to take that content out of the game when it honestly is not bad content, and certainly refers to an era and a place that a lot of people enjoy.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective of what we're seeing currently, it'd be like taking Sunrise out. Let's take Sunrise out. You can only go there if you know where the solar system is. And then, like I said, if it's still in this buggy state, you can only play through it once. So say goodbye to, first, it'll be rough to find it, but then say goodbye, if it's a one-time playthrough, to the entire quantum phase weapon set. Because you can only get one piece. That's why I'm hoping it is a bug.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it is. But
I mean, it's just, there's I agree with Craig, there's a lot of quality content there. I mean, the Doomsday Machine. is in
Well, and you
two
know, and
missions in there.
we mock the Kurland here thing, but it's sort of become an in-game legend, and you know?
Yeah.
Indeed. But, like I say, this is something we're going to be keeping an eye on and whatnot. Be sure to, folks, as well, get on Tribble, test it out. If there's bugs, let them know, let us know, and we'll pass it to them and everything, because we want to make sure that this launches as seamlessly as possible, that there's no bugs, and we want to make sure that a good system is put into place that benefits both player and game dev alike. But, moving along to the next big thing coming, and that is the Random Task Force Operations.
This is a feature
And
that
also
is exciting to me. I've been asking for this for years.
Oh yeah. But basically in a nutshell, and this is also some of the best graphics I've seen them ever put in an article. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I agree.
But essentially in a nutshell, to sum this up, if you've ever played World of Warcraft and you're familiar with the random dungeon queues, you can hit a button in World of Warcraft, you can queue up as a tank, a damage, or a healer, and you can then, you don't know what you don't know what dungeon you're going to go into. It could be a really short one, could be a long one, it could be any of the dungeons that are available for your level range. You just don't know which one you're going to get. And you get extra rewards at the same time for doing a random dungeon on top of what you may normally get from that particular dungeon. Well, this is basically the STO equivalent of that. You queue up, you may get some... This is just one example. You could queue up for a space mission, because I suspect they're going to have space and ground separated, and they may not, for all I know. But let's say they have them separated into space and ground, and you queue up for a random space mission. It could put you in an ISA, it could put you into a Khitomer Vortex, it could put you into a Gravity Kills, we don't know. But you do that, and you get not only the regular rewards, but you also get increased rewards, hence this little graphic here of Kurland and the box, and God, I hope they stick that somewhere on the website. And then it kind of gives a bit of a breakdown depending on, you know, if you're going advanced or normal, and what kind of a box you'll get. So you can see common, 70 marks of your choice, and then 700 dill ore, all the way up to the epic box of 350 marks and 3,500 dill ore. So I'm kind of heavily summarizing, but what's your guys' thoughts?
I'll let Crayo go, because yeah.
Well, I've been asking for this feature for a long time, and I remember when WoW rolled out first of all the battle group feature, where you could have cross-server play, and then secondly, you no longer having to use the summoning stone. These were very revolutionary in the MMO world, and this random dungeon thing is I think is going to breathe new life into the old task force operations, to use their term. You know, there's so few people play Mind Trap or Starbase 24 or you know, any of those, and I definitely would like to see more people in the queues, and the rewards I think are a step in that direction. Now, it was very nice of them to add multiple I don't know, STF, that's what they used to call it, multiple STF queuing with the checkbox system that we currently have, but I look forward to pushing a button and getting a random who knows what, you know, type mission. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and people are going to be going like, man, you know, I haven't played this in years, and I hopefully it'll bring more people into ground. I mean, honestly, ground is easier than space to outfit for, and I would love to see more ground queues being run.
I can agree with that.
Hey, can I be irritated now? Okay, I'm irritated.
Sure.
And not at what they're trying to do. I agree with Crayo. I mean, right now, you know, I know we're doing a Star Trek podcast. I'm playing World of Warcraft. Okay, so...
Oh, God.
No,
Here we go.
My irritation is only implementation, because World of Warcraft has done a great job with their random, you know, their random dungeon queuing. So it's been actually a really good thing. But I've got Triple up right now for Star Trek Online. And under the Task Force Reputations menu, there isn't a random queue button. I don't know if they're going to add that in soon, but what they mean by the randomness is when you log in, Admiral Quinn hails you and gives you a random one to accept. So currently I logged in, and yesterday I got one for Corfez, and today I've gotten one for Bug Hunt. And you've got to accept the mission.
That's very disappointing. I was really hoping it would just be a button you could hit.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing, and this, like I said, I don't know if this is a, in progress and they're trying to put it in there kind of deal, but from what I'm seeing currently, you're waiting for Admiral Quinn to hail you with the random that you're getting for the day. The one or two, because he hails you twice. He hailed me a second time and I got the Zerd Nebula. So it looks like he's just hailing you with a couple of random ones to start off your day.
Gonna interject real quick. I've got a guy in the chat saying it's in the upper right button in the queue window.
I'm looking at it. I've got no upper right button.
So, to the guy in chat out there and everything, where exactly are you seeing the button? I know you said upper right.
Because in the upper right, I see Task Force Operations with an X to close the button, to close the menu. You can just click everything, if that's what he's talking about. You can just click to queue everything that's in there, and then it just it literally selects.
It's in the queue window.
Okay, so they added a thing where you can click and just select everything. To me, that...
Yeah, it's the new interface. Yeah, what we're talking about, dude, is it's the new interface, trying to figure out, is it going to be a button? How are we going to do
because if you're just clicking that to queue to all of them, I'd rather have it the way World of Warcraft does it, where you click random, and you're clicking random.
I want to point out that part of the reason why the World of Warcraft system is so good is they also have a matching system based on your item level or eye level. And, if we were to just implement a willy-nilly random system in this game, we're going to have people who have no gear and people who have tons of gear, and it's going to be just all over the map what kind of an experience you're going to get. So they kind of are going to need to iron that out to do a proper random system, which I hoped that they would do.
But and I told Darkblade this before we started, my irritation is, this is now the second time in Task Force Operations menu they've taken away the queue timer and how many people are queued. They did this about a year and a half ago, where you couldn't see how many people were currently queued up to try and get in, or the wait time. And I remember a lot of people were upset about that, because if you don't know what the wait time is, you might queue up for something and you're waiting your entire game time and it never pops up. Now that might be what they're trying to fix with the randomness of what's going on, but some people are going to want to know, okay, well, I've got an average of 4 minutes before this pops, I can get something done while I wait. Because they even have that in World of Warcraft, where it's like the average wait time and then your current wait time, which would be a nice thing to have. If they're going to have it random and you're not sure, just a nice random timer, you can guess how long you've got to craft batteries, refine your build before you pop in, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying they're done with it and this is what we're looking at. These are just my suggestions on how they can make it a little bit better.
Fair enough. I think, for me personally, I think the concept is a good idea. It introduces a bit of randomness, which is one of the big things that helped World of Warcraft, is they introduced the randomness. That way you didn't have people just queuing for one specific thing all the time. And it did, perhaps not as much as they were hoping it would, but it did breathe a little bit of life back into the queue system over on WoW. Obviously, if it's just a mission that somebody hates, they're not going to stick around anyway. But for most people, they're just going to be like, well, I queued for it, I don't want to wait on the cooldown, let's go ahead and get it done. And they may end up really liking the queue afterwards. I know that's happened to me a couple of times.
And that's part of it, is they're going to want to know the wait time. Not knowing the wait time, they could sit there and it pops near instantly, like Crystalline Catastrophe does. Or currently, if you're trying to do Storming the Spire, you know, you don't know if you're waiting there for a minute or if you're waiting there for 120 minutes. It would just be nice it would be nice for the players to know the average wait time. You don't have to tell them, you know, it's going to be, you know, 50 minutes because we don't know when people are going to come in, but the average wait time with the random system, how long it might take to queue, it does give people a chance to prepare. Whether when it does finally pop, they've had a chance to get ready, everything they need to get ready. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. And they do have a similar feature in WoW, and it'll say if you're queuing for a DPS, as one example, it may say average time in queue 20 minutes, average time in queue 10 minutes. And you could get lucky and it could pop right away. Or it may take the full 10 minutes. There's just a way of knowing, but it gives you that idea to kind of prepare. But anyways, moving right along, like we're saying, do give them some feedback on this, guys, because this is a very big deal, could impact the game in a very positive way or in a potentially very negative way, and we want to ensure that it is the very positive route.
Well, I do want to just say real quick.
Go ahead.
We do keep bringing up WoW, but we have to remember that we don't have the same amount of people as WoW, and that's an important consideration.
That is very, very true. But, yeah, like I say, folks, we do refer to WoW a lot. He is right. We do refer to WoW a lot. We understand WoW does have a lot more people to work on it and everything. We just, at least for me, I relate it back to them because that's...
It is. It's the gold standard. But we do have to remember that we don't have the same number of developers or players.
That is true. But, anyway, like I say, for me, it's the most well-known example is kind of why I do it. But anyways, moving right along, that concludes our articles for this evening. Now we come to our budget build. Now for our budget build this evening, we have a bare bones temporal raider. This is the Ouroboros class. This is the 31st century version. And this is actually one of the ships that is cross-faction. It can be used by Federation tunes, it can be used by Romulan or KDF.
Or Jem'Hadar.
So any of the factions, or even Jem'Hadar.
How does one acquire this ship?
One would have to purchase
so this is a
through
one
the
purchase
C-store.
meets all your characters' purchase kind of a deal. That's a pretty handy ship.
Exactly. Oh yeah. It's a one-time purchase, any character can use it, and the big assumption we always go with for our budget builds is, okay, you've bought the ship, maybe you spent all your Zen or your cash and everything, you don't have a lot to work with to outfit the ship. So, okay, you blew all your resources to get the ship, and now what? What can you do? So for our bare bones budgets, we always assume a maximum EC spending limit of about 2 million energy credits, which is something you can get by doing a couple of missions and selling the stuff to vendors. So for this particular ship, you have a 4-2 weapons layout. It is a raider, so you have 4 forward weapons, 2 in the back, and you have a heavy weapon slot that comes with the ion stream
you did mention
projector.
This is a raider. Does that mean it has raider flanking? That's cool.
Yes, it does. So it does indeed have that. Now for our forward weapons, we went with phasers. We went with 3 of the phaser dual banks from, I believe this is the Ragnarok mission is where I picked these up. And then I have everything in the notes for you guys, by the way. So if I misquote something and whatnot, refer to the notes. But hopefully that won't happen. Then up front we have the quantum phase torpedo launcher to go with our dual banks. Then in the rear of the ship we have our quantum phase beam array and our trilithium phaser beam. So different sets and everything, and that's going to give us our 3-piece quantum phase set, as well as our 2-piece trilithium, which will address the actual set bonuses in just a minute, because there are several that we're going to be drawing from here that are going to be integral to the build. Then for our shields, our engines, deflector, and warp core, we actually used an old favorite of ours on the budget end, and that is the quantum phase space set. Now, the Quantum Phase Space Set does not come with a warp core, so we have to source one, and we use our at least my personal favorite on the budget end, which is the Temporal Phase Overcharged. If you're looking for a good standalone core, this is a good one to go with, as it gives you a Temporal Negotiator type effect that's going to cut down your Bridge Officer cooldowns in half for the duration. So, very nice warp core. Then for the shields, the engines and deflector, pretty nice stats. We'll take a look at their set bonuses in just a minute. Then for your heavy weapon, it comes with the Hyper-Excited Ion Stream Projector. This is the standard heavy weapon that they give you whenever the ship doesn't come with a specialty weapon, such as the Slam Shot Magnetic as one example, or something similar. For our devices, we have the Subspace Field Modulator. This is a free device you can get from the Spectre's Arc, and that's one thing that you'll still be able to get whenever they change everything over. We are going to make sure that that's a bug and get that fixed for you guys so you can replay it. But this basically gives you a free neutronium armor's worth of resistances while it's active. It does, however, debuff you for a minus 400 protonic damage resist rating, so that is something to be aware of. There's not that many enemies in the game that use it, but it is something you're going to want to keep in mind. Now we'll take a look at our consoles real quick. You have 3 engineering, 3 science, and 5 tactical consoles. Our tactical consoles are the ones that boost phasers, so phaser relays are the easiest to explain. You can pick those up from the Of Science and Portents mission, so you can get easy, cheap phaser consoles. Then for our science consoles, we have our Quantum Phase Converter. This is going to give us another nice boost of phaser, as well as completing our 3-piece set. We'll take a look at that in just a minute. Then we have our Assimilated Module. This is going to give a bit of crit chance and severity, as well as a bit of control expertise. Then we have our Temporal Disentanglement Suite. This is going to give a nice chunk of shield capacity, as well as a nice chunk of critical chance and severity based on our Aux power, and a little bit of shield damage resistance.
I'd like to chime in just real quick. For people who are just starting the game, this won't apply to you, but if you've been playing and you managed to get through the 8th anniversary event, there is and you got the event reward, there's a pretty fantastic weapon there that you can switch out for the Hyper-Excited Ion heavy weapon, so you might want to look into that if you've been around for a little while.
Absolutely, and he's referencing the Voice of the Prophets. It actually comes off of the Bajoran Interceptor, which is, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I forgot to put that in the notes. But, yeah. And hopefully they'll have some more budget options that we can use for heavy weapons pretty quick. But for our engineering consoles, we have the Trillium Deplating from the Ragnarok mission. Now, if you're looking for a good cheap armor, then this is one I'm going to highly recommend because it is basically a field generator science console and a neutronium armor slammed into one thing. So it's going to give a nice chunk of damage resistance across the board, and it's also going to give a very hefty boost to your shield capacity. And that is going to stack cumulatively with what you're getting from the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. So you're going to have around 40% additional shield capacity, which on a raider like this is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. Then we have our Reinforced Armaments console. One of the big strengths to this is going to be the EPS that it gives, power transfer, and some of the static haste that it's going to give, and we'll explain that when we look at our set bonuses in just a second. Now I waited to use this console last because I want to show that in game, and we'll look at our set bonuses, and that is the Tactical System Stabilizer that actually comes with the ship itself. Now, please excuse the pitiful shape that this ship is actually in. I'm kind of in the process of building this out still. So, for what you get as the passive bonuses on this particular ship, you actually get 20 Starship Energy Weapon Training and 50 Starship Tactical Readiness. So that is equivalent of about 2 points in Tactical Readiness and at least 1 point in the energy weapon damage. So that is a very nice thing to have. Then one of the big things you get whenever you use this is it gives a minus 5% recharge time on Bridge Officer abilities every 3 seconds for 30 seconds, so essentially 10 procs. and then you get a 30% firing cycle haste on your energy weapons for 30 seconds, and it's on a 2-minute recharge. So you get a very hefty haste boost by having this console on the ship, and you get a nice damage boost. We're going to take a quick look at our set bonuses. I'm going to start with the Trilithium Bonuses. This is our Omni and our console. And you can see for the console, a nice power transfer, a bit of hull restoration and capacity. The real strength in the Trilithium 2 set is going to be our 2 set bonus. This is going to be a 5% firing cycle haste for your energy weapons that you're going to get for free. And on a ship like this, that's going to be a huge deal. So automatically, by having this 2 set, your weapons are going to fire even faster and going to give you more damage for your damage dealers and threat gen for our
probably also
tanks
worth mentioning that if you are going to, if you have that ship I mentioned earlier, it too comes with a weapon haste console that might fit into this build.
Very much so. And we should mention that these haste effects are cumulative and do stack. So that is something to be aware of. Then we have our Quantum Phase Converter. This is the console that comes with the Quantum Phase set. Now this is actually a universal. You can put it in any slot that you want. It comes with a 20% Cat 1 phaser damage boost. Then we have a bit to our aux power. We have 30 drain expertise. And then it does have a hot restart on aux power that can occur once per minute. Now, for this particular power, for these particular set bonuses, you're going to get the accuracy bonus from the 2 set, and it's going to double the drain and heal that is present on the Quantum Phase torpedo and the beam. So, very, very potent. Then the real strength is the Quantum Destabilizing Beam. This is a 2-minute recharge. It does so much phaser damage per second for 10 seconds, and it does to the foe a minus 3.2 all power subsystem drain for 10 seconds, and to you it grants 3.2 all power subsystems per second for 10 seconds. Now we should mention that this can be boosted by exotic particle gens, it can be boosted by drain expertise, and the phaser damage itself can be boosted by phaser related items. Now the numbers you see may be slightly different from what I'm seeing in game, because I don't know what you guys have as far as skills, but this is something I wanted to point out. And when you play your cards at the right time, this is actually a very powerful ability in your toolkit that you're going to have. So that's what we have for our 3 sets there. Then for our Quantum Phase, we'll take a quick look at that. Then we'll look at our bridge officers and our traits and everything. For our 3 set bonus, or for our 2 set bonus, you're going to have 19% maximum shield capacity, and you're going to reduce all energy damage to your shields by 7.5%. So you're going to have roughly 60% additional capacity across the board on this ship. So you're almost doubling your shield capacity compared to normal. And you're going to have even further damage reduction to your shields. So that's going to be about a 10.5 damage reduction to shields between the Temporal Disentanglement Suite and this 2 set bonus. Then for your 2 set, you have the Energy Weapon Entanglement. It triggers Quantum Entanglement between self and foe for 12 seconds. To self, you get a plus 7.8% energy weapon damage for 12 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. To the enemy, they get a minus 7.8% energy weapon damage for 12 seconds. And it can be buffed by Drain Expertise. So you're going to have a lot of high hitting powers, you're going to have a lot of survivability and damage reducers built into the ship as well. So I wanted to show these in game because they are integral parts of these sets, or part of the ship, and it is something to keep in mind. Now for our skill build, we used Intelligence Primary and Miracle Worker Secondary. This is going to give some nice offensive power, as well as defensive bonuses. For our space skills, it's our standard skill build. We'll have a video that you can reference to if you want the more technical explanations of why we picked certain skills that we did. But for those people that just want to see the build for the skills, and then move along. We have it here for you. You can see it's 14 engineering, 14 science, 18 tactical. There's our... I'm going to mouse over it really quick. We have our lieutenant, lieutenant commander, our commander rank skills, our captain skills, and our admiral skills. Now, one point I will point out really fast is the improved tactical readiness. By having this and with that console, that's going to push your tactical powers to nearly global, if not outright to global. So that is something
That's,
to
of course,
be
global
aware
cooldown,
of.
meaning you can use those abilities again very quickly.
Yes. Then for our traits, we'll take a quick look at those, and then we'll examine our bridge officer powers. For our personal space traits, we have Accurate to improve the accuracy of your weapons, Beam Training for some free beam damage, Elusive for free defensive value, making your ship harder to hit. Beam Barrage is our R&D crafting trait. We always like to assume you've leveled at least one crafting school, and in this case we assume beams is what you chose. We have Grace Under Fire, which is the career-specific trait for engineers. We use this because the builder defaults to engineers. If you're not an engineer but you want to use the build, swap in your own career-specific trait, and you're good to go. We have Nanite Repair Matrix from the Midnight Mission. This is a nice little hull heal when you drop below 50%. Point Blank Shot from the House Peg mission. This is going to increase your damage the closer you are to the target up to a certain maximum. Fleet Coordinator for free damage based on how many people are in your party, up to 10% maximum, 2% minimum if it's just you. And then we have the Operative for a little bit of free critical chance and severity. Now for Starship Traits, this is one of the builds where we're actually able to benefit from all 4 Starship Traits that we have budget-wise. We have the Best Defense, which is going to grant a whole healing buff along with the normal effects to attack patterns, also from House Peg. Predictive Algorithms from Intel, an accuracy and damage bonus. Then we have our Going the Extra Mile. It increases the effectiveness of Captain and Bridge Officer heals, and can get you temporary hull cap if you heal somebody above 90%. And then we have the, I think this is the one, yep, this is the right one from the ship itself. We have the Regroup. Your attack pattern bridge officer abilities will reduce the recharge time on engineering and temporal operative bridge officer powers. So this is something that's going to get you even further cooldown reduction each time you pop your attack patterns. And since your attack patterns are going to be close to global, that's going to force your bridge officer cooldowns even lower. Then we have for our space reps our advanced target systems for free critical severity, our precision for free critical hit chance, our aux power offensive for a accuracy and category 2 damage boost based on aux power, and then we have our magnified firepower for a static 5% category 2 damage boost. Then for our active reputations, we have our anti-time entanglement Singularity. This creates a nice little physical AoE damage ability and slow that it puts on foes. We have our biomolecular shield generator, reduces the damage that our ship shields take while people are inside it, and can also provide a slight bit of healing. Deploy sensor interference platform is an oh crap I'm gonna die thing. You can throw this out there and it will taunt enemies to itself until it is destroyed, or until the duration runs out, whatever happens first.
It's worth noting, don't use that console if you have a good tank in your party.
Yeah. Then our Quantum Singularity Manipulation. This is going to increase all of your science stats by plus 100 for the duration, and grant a temporary cloak effect to your ship. But that's some of what we have here. Now, to get more bang for your buck, pop your exotic abilities first, if you have any. Exotic buffs, follow up with Quantum Singularity, and then your Anti-Time Entanglement. And to answer a question in chat, it's that some of the powers benefit from additional aux, but the vast majority of the power being used here is actually going to be in the weapons themselves. But most ships are probably going to have all of their power in weapons and auxiliary anyways. At least for this kind of build. Then, moving on, we have our bridge officers. Now for this particular ship, it is a all-universal ship, and it is truly a raider in this instance. You have a Commander Universal / Temp Ops, 2 Lieutenant Commander Universals, and a Lieutenant Universal / Temp Ops. Now, we tried to keep it simple for this particular build. For our Commander Universal seat, we have the Tactical Team 1, our Torpedo Spread 1, or Torpedo Spread 2, I'm sorry. Then we have our Beam Fire at Will, and then we have our Attack Pattern Beta 3. Then this is going to allow us to smack most anything in range with an ability, as well as throw torpedoes out there and debuff foes. For our Science Station that we've went with our Psi Team 1 to recharge our shields a bit and purge subnucleonic debuffs. Then we have our Hazard Emitters 2. This is going to purge plasma fires as well as a heal over time effect. This is also then, for Gravity Well, going to give us some control. Then for our Lieutenant Commander Universal, here in this one we have a Emergency Power to Engines 1. This is going to give us some maneuverability in a pinch and power to our engines. Then we have Aux to Structural for a bit of defensive value and temporary health. Then we have our Emergency Power to Weapons. This is going to be a nice chunk of weapons power and a nice damage boost. Then for our final seat, we have the Lieutenant Universal. We went with a Engineering Team 1 for a hull heal and then reverse ship polarity. And that's what we have for our bridge officers. Now I will make a note, since some people are asking in chat, in this instance I didn't use any temporal operative powers on this build as it sits. I wanted to gear it more towards the middle of the spectrum. In some instances, if you think you've got enough survival or you've got enough damage output, you can freely experiment around with these powers and it's not going to hurt you at all. So if you think, okay, maybe I don't need Aux to Structural, maybe move the reverse shield polarity to the Lieutenant Commander seat, use a Lieutenant level Temp Ops power. Point being, these budget builds, they're not meant to be, this is all you can ever do with the ship. This is just a template, something to give you guys ideas.
A starting place, a place to, a way to kind of become competitive and then figure out where you want to go from there.
And as far as the total cost to build the ship itself, you're looking at about $1.6 million in order to purchase your crafted... Oops, actually no. That's an old note from when I was doing something earlier, so there's actually no EC cost to this ship. I had that in case we were going to use a crafted Omni, and I forgot to take that out. So you actually have no EC cost to the ship, and you're looking at about 15,000 dilithium in order to create it, and that's going to take about 2 days, assuming only one character refining dilithium, and that's only for your assimilated module. So in this instance, we've actually not touched our EC at all. So, yeah, thoughts from you guys on
I like
this.
the fact that it has raider flanking. I don't know if you explained what that was in when you were talking about the ship, but that's a big damage boost right there.
Yes, it is. Basically, raider flanking, if you're able to get behind an enemy, you're able to flank them, that's going to give you increased damage above and beyond what it would normally give you.
This is a thing that the Klingons have known about for some time. Federation hasn't had access to that until the Intel spec tree came out.
Indeed. But to answer one more question in chat in regards to the budget build, asking about Aux to Structural and some offensive-based stuff on, and some offensive powers based on Aux. The assumption behind having Aux to Structural on the ship is that it's designed to be a defensive ability. I'm sure you would agree that it's better to be able to stay alive and in the fight dealing some damage versus, or dealing slightly reduced damage versus getting killed, not being able to deal damage at all. And like I say, feel free to take this build, experiment with it, change powers around to whatever suits you. That's what we do the builds for, to kind of give people an idea of, hey, this is what you can do on the cheap if you don't have a lot of resources or you're not really sure about a ship. And it's to give you guys ideas. Everything, if you want to swap some powers around to use 10 pops, go for it. If you want to swap in some better powers or what you think is better powers or whatever works best for you, do it. That's the entire point behind it. Now, as far as the bugs corners go, or the buggy corner goes, I don't really have a lot that I can talk about this week. What I'm actually going to ask you guys to do for the buggy corner is actually go onto Tribble, test that out, because we want to make sure, like I said, this has a very successful launch. We want to make sure everything works right, everything is good to go, and we don't want to have issues. So let them know your feedback on the random task force, on the new queues, on the new missions, the whole 9 yards. And let's make sure this goes seamlessly for people. But, yeah, any other thoughts from you guys? Comments?
Well, I don't know that I have particularly too much to add. I like the idea of the budget build. I like the raider flanking. I like the fact that it doesn't cost anything. EC is not particularly hard to come by. Dilithium can be, if you need a great quantity of it. With a 2-day, or 2 or 3 days refining time in order to get the dilithium for this build, that's not out of the range of, that's not impossible to get. So overall, I don't know, just as far as any further comments from me, I think it's a pretty fantastic build and will make an excellent starting point for people who want to become a little more competitive. Timber?
Indeed.
I mean, for me, it's pretty solid. Yeah. The only thing, it would add a little bit to the cost. If you don't have access to Voice of the Prophets, you can spend an extra 2 days of refined dilithium and get your hands on the flak shot artillery from competitive war games. That's a very decent heavy weapon. It's better than the ion stream cannon, I'll tell you that. And it's so if you don't have Voice of the Prophets, you don't have one of the free good ones, that would be your next best step, and that one actually hits pretty decently. That'd be my first step right there, and it's going to cost you, of course, the marks, but as far as dilithium, it's the same as your simulated module. It's going to cost you about a day or two to get that dilithium refined.
And if you don't have the reputation up to whatever tier you need to be, I find it a good policy if my reputations are not tier 5 to just do a daily in that reputation, and so that way I can get the marks to run the daily project to get those tiers up. And if you have multiple characters like I do, whenever I'm on that character, I just check everything out. Oh, I need marks for Omega. I better run an Omega task force, so I'll go run one, get some marks, and usually you get enough marks for 2 days worth of running the mission, and it's not like it doesn't really intrude on your life. It doesn't feel like a second job to do that.
And we don't know what the random task force is going to look like in its final version, because it's still on Tribble, it's still being worked on. But competitive war games is one of the harder ones to get marks for if you're trying to do just random pug runs. A lot of times competitive war games is a hard queue to fill. It's normally 5v5 kind of deal. But if you're going for daily marks for that one, go to Red Alert Borg. Do the Red Alert Borg event. It only takes you, it doesn't take that long at all. It's a normal queue. If you do the daily bonus for any marks, normally you'll get about 70 to 80 with the bonus for the daily of whatever mark you select. So after that, it's only like 5 to 10 marks if you keep repeating it. But you could at least get 70 to 80 of any queues that you might feel you're not able to get the normal queue up for. And at least that's enough to do a daily and an hourly every day. So that will speed it up a little bit for you.
And you should be doing them daily. You should get those reps up. The the traits and things that come with them are enormously valuable. They are not a waste of time to be Tier 5. And we have a Tier 6 coming. You want to be ready for that. And now, once the Tier 6 arrives, just hitting Tier 5 will sponsor all of your other characters for that rep as well.
Yep.
But anyways, folks, that concludes our show for this evening. Whatnot, I hope you guys have found everything informative and gotten a kick out of our particular brand of comedy. Whatnot, no RP Corner this week because Artie is on the road at the moment, traveling between cons and everything. But
is it outro time?
Pretty much. But if you guys have any budget build requests, feel free to let us know. And we'll try to hook you up. Let us know it's a high-end budget, a mid-range, or a bare bones type of thing. Let us know what ship and what your goal for the ship is. We'll hook you up. If you think that your piloting is what needs work and that your gear is in order, feel free to get us a brief little video clip if you're piloting to us some way or another, and we'll offer you some tips and tricks to improve in that aspect. But as always, a good shout out to our friends over at the Temporal Armada. Be sure to check those guys out. Very cool bunch of people. Very good radio program going. And also our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. Always good selection of music going on there with those guys. Never know what you're going to find. And the party is there.
This has been an SARoss Internet Television production. The opinions stated herein are exclusively the opinions of the PRS team. Tune in next week, same Twitch time, same Twitch channel, for another exciting episode of the Pilot Review Show with your favorite hosts, Darkblade and Crayo.
But, as always, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, reminding you to have your tribbles spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.